This GMP Detox session will be about CSA, Computer Software Assurance, and it will also contain a reaction part. We will start with a kind of a forward that we understand what we are talking about. And I shared my screen again with different sorts of documents and information. And we should first go in some background details before we go to the real topic, CSA. So what I shared here it's the Federal Register Notice to the draft guidance for industry. We will also have a session, and I got some feedback, thanks so much, to talk about what is a predicate rule. For example, for medicinal products, medicines, it is in the US FDA, it's 21 CFR Part 210, 211. For medical devices, for example, it is 21 CFR Part 820, the Quality System Management Regulations. Or we have GLP, it's 21 CFR Part 58, for example, and so on. And we will sort out what are regulations in Europe, what are directives, and what are guidance documents or guidelines, and which of them are legally binding, which are subject to inspections. And we will do for that a separate session. In any case, if you read a new regulation or a directive or anything like this, and this applies to the US and Europe, there's a commenting phase, and in the US, you will find also additional information to that in a so-called Federal Register Notice. I have opened this notice for the draft guidance for industry, and it's important, it is a draft version. There was a commenting phase. I was sending some comments to that. It's a great portal where you can provide your comments. That's quite very nice. You can do that also from anywhere in the world. It's a democratic system, and you can just send your comments. Sometimes people complain about laws or regulations or guidance documents when they are in final, but you are asked to provide comments if you read the draft version. Anyhow, currently, February 2024, this is still a draft guidance for industry. It could happen sometimes that the guidance for industry document, that it is published as the final version after 3 months, 6 months, maybe 3 years, or never. This also happens sometimes that the guidance for industry document will not be published by the agency. Usually in this notice, you find different information, especially why they want to do that, who can be contacted, what is the background, for example. And I have here marked, for example, why does the US FDA provide this new guidance for industry, a non-binding recommendation? So they write, medical device manufacturers have expressed a desire for greater clarity regarding the agency's expectations for software validation for computers and automated data processing systems used as part of production or the quality system. So it's not about software validation as it is defined for medical devices, having software and hardware on it. So they call it SAMD, software as a medical device, or SIMD, software in a medical device. We talk today only about medical devices. If you look into that, and we will then look into the guidance for industry, you will find references to the predicate rule 21 CFR 820. Like you find it here. There's no reference to the CGMP regulations for medicinal products. I will say something to that also later. And then you will find Paperwork Reduction Act and electronic access of that, different things. And then you see here the draft guidance, when finalized, will represent the current thinking of FDA on computer software assurance for production and quality systems. It is not establish any rights for any person and is not binding on FDA or the public. It is very important to understand, first of all, I switch now to the draft guidance in a PDF format. You will always find in the header contains non-binding recommendations. Draft, not for implementation, contains non-binding recommendations. For sure, if you are in a US FDA inspection and you talk to an investigator, it will show that you are competent if you know about the guidance for industry documents. Some of them are from 2003 and they always start, this document represents the current thinking of the US FDA. Maybe that's not the most current one, but it's always good to have that in mind. But you will never get an observation given to a guidance for industry. They will use the predicate rule that they say you have failed to do whatever process validation according 21 CFR part 820.70, for example, or 50 or whatever. But these are only guidance documents. And this is a draft guidance. I don't know when the final guidance will come out. I know I think there are 70 or 80 comments on this draft guidance from the industry. So it's very important to understand it's a guidance for industry. It's a non-binding document. It's very nice that such documents are written because regulations, laws, they just tell you what to do. And these are a little bit like how-to documents. You can use them. You can do it also in another way. This is not what I'm saying. This is what is written in a Federal Register notice. And basically, that's a standard sentence, which is put to every guidance for industry. And the US FDA also needs to follow their predicate rules. I think it's in part 10 CFR written down how to write guidance for industry documents. Anyhow, the next important thing is here, and that's interesting, and you should consider that really. Some people say the US FDA. It's not one single unit or organization. It's like in your company, there are basically different departments. Usually they call it different offices. And there's the CDRH and the CDRH. You see that also here in the footer is the Center for Devices and Regulatory Health. And there's the CBER, Center for Biological Evaluation and Research. And this is important to understand that there are two different offices. The CDRH is responsible, and this is their area, is medical devices. Medical devices, predicate rule 21 CFR part 820. CBER or CBER is responsible for medicines or medicinal products. Very often it's written in Europe, medicinal products, or you could also say drugs, whatever, right? So, and CBER does have as CGMP 21 CFR part 210 and 211. For medical devices, CDRH does have 21 CFR part 820. These are two different offices. Why is CBER here also mentioned in this document? Because sometimes there's a mixture between a medical device and a medicinal device, medicinal product, sorry, medicines and medical device. These are called combination products. And there's also a predicate rule for combination products, which is called 21 CFR part 4. In part 4, very short. I want to be precise, but also I want to be very short. Part number 4 is saying you may use the CBER 21 CFR part 211 PQS pharmaceutical quality system, PQS, like mentioned in the ICH Q10, or you use the CDRH 21 CFR Part 820, the quality system regulations, or sometimes quality management system regulations. They use often 2 or 3 different abbreviations. That's okay, but you must understand there are 2 offices and there are 2 predicate rules, and the CBER is mentioned here because there could be combination products, and you see that very nicely, for example, here, that in this context, you must request information from them. So that was the first 2 pages of the document, but understanding this document, non-binding recommendations, is very important. So we will come later to the reaction, and don't believe the hype of everything what is written down in marketing. So this is important to understand. And the draft guidance, when finalized, it's not finalized yet to my knowledge, not in February 2024, this will change, represent the current thinking of the Food and Drug Administration. It does not establish any rights for any person and is not binding on FDA or the public. It's not binding. Within the legal framework, you have predicate rules. These are binding, but not guidance for industries. Again, good to know. Most of them very helpful. And if you talk to an FDA investigator, to a subject matter experts, it might be a big plus if you know these and if you have read that and if you have understood what their expectation is. It's not only to have regulatory requirements, there could also be expectations. So on this expectation level, this is where it is put. And you have seen that the US FDA was writing it very gentle, saying the industry expresses the need for clarity, blah, blah, blah. I think the real reason is if I compare it with the pharmaceutical industry CGMP 21 CFR Part 211. That happens to me also as a consultant, as an auditor, that sometimes if I go into the medical device industry, that it happens that a client or the company that I'm auditing is declining to say we must validate our EQMS system or our non-compliance deviation system or our training database or something like that. If you go into the pharmaceutical industry, very often there's no doubt we must validate the ERP system, the MES system, and the quality systems around, and even on the level of production, we have PLC systems or process control systems, and yes, we must validate them. Sometimes with some medical device companies, they even try to refer to the ISO 13485 saying, oh, it's not explicitly demanded there. I read it like this. But you could also read it, no, it's not needed. It's not a good excuse. It's not clever. And maybe there's also a misunderstanding what validation is. And then I can say, okay, if you don't want to validate it because validation is horrible, then I can say, okay, then you apply good IT practices. Or what are you doing? Or do you just don't define requirements? You don't write a URS? You don't test it, you go live, you don't have a test environment, you only have a productive environment, you don't care about releases, you don't care about user accounts, you don't care about backups. They say, no, we do. I say, yeah, that's validation. It's not, validation is not to find the most complicated way in the world. Even so, CGMP or GMP is not saying that you should find the most complicated way in doing it. Okay, back to the guidance for industry. FDA is issuing this draft guidance to provide recommendations on computer software assurance. We could think if this is a good name for it. We come later to CSV, computer system validation, for computers and automated data processing systems used as part of medical device production or the quality system. Medical devices. This is where the guidance is provided for. by the FDA. It's not provided to the pharmaceutical industry. It's very clearly written. Okay. And even there, you see it here in line 26, computer system validation requirements in 21 CFR part 820. Here, the predicate rule is defined. What is also very important to understand, this draft guidance, when final, will supplement FDA guidance, general principles of software validation. I think the general principles of software validation, the first revision was 1997 or so. The current one is 2003. Maybe I'm wrong, it's 2004, 2002 or something like this, somewhere there. Software validation guidelines. And here, people are using the expression software validation. In the pharmaceutical industry, I never talk about software validation. This is maybe also very, very important. There's definitely a don't. Don't talk about software validation when you are in the pharmaceutical industry. I exclusively use the term software validation for a medical device which contains hardware and software as an SAMD or SIMD. There are other requirements in this world, IEC 62304, for example. There are other requirements. It is a higher standard than GAMP. GAMP is not applicable to SAMD or SIMD. It is written there in the scope of the document. But you also need production machines producing the medical devices. And this is where this guidance for industry was written for. And this guidance for industry, when final, I don't know when this will happen, will supplement the general principles of software validation. Software validation, that's the software on the medical device. And this guidance for industry will be like an attachment, an additional document for production and QA in medical device industry. They all call it sometimes software validation guidance document. And again, this is not something that has written, you see also here, this guidance has been prepared by CDRH and CBER in consultation with the Center of Drug Evaluation and Research. The people writing it was CDRH, very simple. Okay, for the current edition of the FDA regulated consensus standard reference in this document, see the FDA recognized consensus standards database. So, okay, so here you see again the background. The quality system regulation includes requirements for medical device manufacturers to develop, conduct, blah, 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 according 21 CFR, part 820.70, production and process controls, and so on. This draft guidance addresses practices relating to computers and automated data processing systems used as part of production or the quality system. Very clearly written. There's no doubt about it. Again, requirements of 21 CFR part 820, medical devices. This guidance does not provide recommendations for the design verification or validation requirements specified in 21 CFR part 820.30. By the way, part 820 was revised end of January, just some days ago. Will come effective in exactly 2 years, I think on the 2nd February 2026. And there you see, when applied to software in a medical device, SIMD, or software as a medical device, SAMD. There's something else behind of that. We could also do one session about that. Okay. The regulation requires manufacturers to validate software that is used as part of the production or the quality system for its intended use. Part 820, again. So it's written by and for the medical devices. It focuses on process risk, medical device risks. And again, it's very important to understand why and how this document was written and what a guidance for industry is. What I also want to show you, they have given 3 examples. Sometimes it's not easy to give examples that are generally understood and applicable, but here they have done that. And it's very interesting what kind of systems they use as examples. So example number 1, non-conformance management systems. Again, if you would go into the pharmaceutical industry, 21 CFR part 211, you would hardly find a company who declined to validate their deviation management system or their complaint management system. Usually they are all validated of this well-known brands, Viva, TrackWise, Master Controller, and so on. Okay, so then we have learning management system, training systems. I think when I started 20 years ago, the first thing that we did was to validate our training management system. It was an Access database, horrible, but there's no doubt about that. And business intelligence applications. So a medical device company cannot say, no, that's not relevant regarding patient risk and so on. For sure, your deviation management system, non-conformance management system, that's again, different term used in the device industry, learning management system or training management system, for sure. And these are it was the purpose of the US FDA to take these examples, because I think, and if I read some warning letters, that medical device manufacturers have failed or have just declined, forgotten to validate their non-conformance management system. So they have used that as an example. More and more I read some posts and training offers and all that sort of stuff where people come to the idea to write CSV versus CSA or something like this. I have chosen here the shift from CSV to CSA. I could have taken any supplier. I see that very often. And what scares me a little bit, you can do things for marketing purposes or to make things attractive, even internally, to say, yes, no, that's the mission, we need to do that. I'm scared about that they really believe what they are writing. So that's the highest risk. So if I start to read that here, I got it yesterday. I needed to give my email address, and then you can download. It's something like a white paper or something. And in the first sentence, you will understand that I must fully disagree. In today's rapidly evolving pharmaceutical landscape, again, we talk about CSA, yeah, not CSV. We get the message here, switch to CSA. And the first sentence is pharmaceutical landscape. I think I told you now 10 minutes that we talk about the medical device industry, that it's a part 210, 11 and a part 280, that there are 2 US FDA officers. I can hardly not believe that the person who has written that in the first sentence is understanding the Federal Register notice, have not read the computer software assurance guidance for industry document, does not know what that this is not a regulatory requirement. It's not, simply not. Now you get the reaction from me. Okay. And then they say, yeah, CSV is the evil and horrible one size fits all approach. If I think back to GAMP 5 second edition, 2022, if I think back to GAMP 5 first edition, 2008, if I think back to GAMP 4, was it 2004, I guess, something like this. It was always said by CSV, by GAMP, the best practice standard, that the validation approach is scalable. Nobody is talking about a one-size-fits-all approach. I would not have the idea to validate an ERP system the same way like I validate a balance or pH meter or something like this. It makes no sense. Who's living that does not need to have the CSA approach. The other help might be better on that. And here they also say that to challenge the CSV paradigm. No, that was not the reason. That was not the reason to challenge that. You can read it in the Federal Register notice what the challenge was, to guide the people on it, but not to fight against the CSV, or I don't know what this marketing flyer wants to tell me. It's definitely not correct. Then they state, also released in 2022, the GAMP5 risk-based approach, blah, blah, blah. Even more important would be the good practice guide enabling innovation, but it doesn't matter, has been updated with its second edition. Yes, that's true. Not everything is wrong. CSA is mentioned one time on one page of 404 pages of ISB GAMP5 when it comes to testing. But it's not saying GAMP5 replace or shift from CSV to CSA. Not one single word. It's not correct what is written there. The impression that this document wants to give to you is not correct. The main changes, I see also the main changes for D2 functional specification, which was put into specifying requirements and not anymore saying user requirement specification. Now it's called specifying requirements. So there are some more changes like this. And overall, ISB GAMP5 second edition and FDA draft guidance on CSA are aligned with each other in the creation, blah, blah. They are aligned. CSA is mentioned one time. CSA does have a subchapter in a good practice guide of GAMP, which belongs to the series of RDI, records and data integrity. And these are maybe 12 pages or something like this. So I would not say that GAMP5, by the way, another problem is GAMP5 is a registered trade name. The R in the cycle is missing here. Again, it's also a problem. I don't know if they have asked the ISP if they are allowed to use that reference in here. It does not look like that. At least a registered trademark is missing. GAMP is a registered trademark. You cannot use that. Look also on the clip for the FDA logo. So using tools and automation instead of documents, yes, that's right. That's the main focus. And maybe the system here, like other systems, is absolutely great for that. But what is written here, it's misleading. It's much like any other change or mindset of paradigm within the pharmaceutical industry. CSA is not written for the pharmaceutical industry. If companies have a CSV approach which is not good, then it's because of the implementation. It's not because of the regulations. It's not because of GAMP. It was maybe never read or not understood. The update of CSV practice into a more flexible and agile CSA, I don't know. If you would meet in an inspection situation an investigator or an auditor or something like that in a pharmaceutical company, 21 CFR part 211, and you would say, we switched from CSV practices to CSA. I don't know if you would lose your face on a professional level. I would ask you, why did you do that? There's no regulatory way behind of that. If you would say, yeah, we just did it for marketing and to motivate the people to do so, and CSV was an ugly word becoming in our company, and we just wanted to change that. You can also call it tiki-taka, whatever, itsy-teeny, bitsy-teeny, whatever. Then it's okay. But the message that you get here is very strange. They suggest to you to do a CSV to CSA gap assessment. Maybe an assessment would be appropriate, but I didn't like that. It's not really well written. I'm not sure if the background of the Federal Register notice of the CSA guidance for industry, what is a guidance for industry and what officers do and what are the predicate rules. I think the author of this document have not understood that. If you want to know more about CSA, we cannot go into every single detail. I have written some comments to the US FDA. The commenting phase is closed, I think, since already 1 year or something like this. There's a great guy in Berlin, Ozan Okutan, who has written just a document, an analysis of the CSA approach very nicely, very detailed. I do not know if you would find here any question which cannot be answered even with SIMD development. And I think this is very well written, pretty much in detail. Send me an email. Write something in the contact if you want to have this document. I think Ozan is okay with it. I will still ask him also. And there was a review of this document, also a very good subject matter expert, Bob McDowell, writing wonderful articles. One of that, if you want to know a little bit more about CSA, is also CSA Complete Stability Assured, a wonderful article, maybe a little bit harsh, but very nicely written. You will find a lot of things that I also mentioned here, different FDA offices, different predicate rules. What is a medical device? What is a combination product? And what are medicinal products? So that was about CSA. In the moment, if you have trainings and if you belong to the pharmaceutical industry, please remember that the guidance for industry, it will never be binding. And if you are not in the medical device industry, I could even imagine that the investigator doing a routine CGMP inspection for medicines, he or she even would not know the guidance for industry. They should know, and usually they know it, but it's not written down in any compliance manual, inspection manual, that this should be checked. It's a non-binding recommendation. It's in the moment a draft version. It's not needed to shift from CSV to CSA. Apply GAMP 5 second edition. GAMP 5 second edition is absolutely brilliant. Enabling innovation, this good practice guide. I guarantee you, I will do GMP Detox session on that because it's wonderfully written. Okay, so that was a long reaction. That was a lot of stuff. You can watch it 2 or 3 times. I would be very happy if you leave a comment. Even a like would be very nice if you like it, otherwise not. And if you want to subscribe to this channel, I will try so often as I can to make something here for you. Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.